Coming up in this week's Rum Show, my two simple cocktails feature these two rums. First off, I'm over in Cuba with a sherry rum that I actually like, mainly because it's not that sherry forward in the grand scheme of things. And then I'm up in Scotland with Island Slice, but this is their Scotch bonnet rum. So I've got those two featuring in very simple cocktails. This week's cocktail dissection of the week is the corn and oil, hence the Falernums out here. Although I think I should rephrase that to cocktail destruction. Sorry, Barbados, but that's coming up in a bit. Tim in Germany has stitched me up this week with my daiquiri of the week, or has he? Find out whether I enjoy a Smith & Cross daiquiri or not. I'm going to be chatting about last week's rum tastings and giving you my favourite rum of the week out of those three that I tried. But coming up first is my thought of the week. Welcome back, rum fans. Welcome to show 3. This is the third rum show that I've done in this format. Thank you so much for all your positive feedback so far. I've had a couple of negatives as well. Of course, there's the keyboard warriors that come out there and go, nee, nee, nee. But I just literally hit delete. I don't even give those the time of the day. But for all those of you given constructive and positive ideas and fun ideas, thank you very much. The daiquiri suggestions are rolling in. So keep your daiquiri ideas, your favourite go-tos, whether it's just plain rum, whether it's flavoured daiquiris, keep those rolling in. Tim. Thank you, Tim. That's coming up in a bit. Smith & Cross daiquiri. Why would you do that to yourself? But come watch that in a bit. That's quite funny. So keep all that stuff going in. One bit of feedback I want from you this week. Kind of rocking out. I'm in the process of rocking out different shirts and seeing what pops and seeing what doesn't pop on screen. So let me know your thoughts on this shirt. So I'm quite happy with some of the others. I've found a white shirt now that pops in there. So each channel has a different colour shirt. It's the red one that I'm not kind of sort of, you know, au fait with at the moment. But anyway, let's dive in. I'm gonna wear Collins. This is Kit's 9. Let's give you a close up of this. This is this year's edition of Cast. What's it? 3 experimental Cast 3. That's what we've got here. So I'm gonna be sipping on that. But I want to talk about this week's thought of the week, which is rum shows, rum festivals. It is that time now in the UK. So we are mid-August. When the excitement, we've done the Rum Show, we've done Manchester. Scottish Rum Fest is coming up literally in a couple of weeks' time. As far as I'm aware, it's all Scottish scratch distilleries. Well, that's how it was marketed, although I have seen a couple of distilleries that I'm not sure are 100% scratch, but they are, for all intents and purposes, Scottish producers. I think I'll keep it at that. So that's coming up the first weekend of September. But all the big attention down here is now focusing towards Rumfest, which is the 15th and 16th of October, whatever it is, like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's essentially Saturday, Sunday. Trade is Monday, I think, but there's also like a little special bonus going on this year on the Friday. We'll give you more details about that, but we're there. I say we, it's not me. But there's a UK British Isles. I think we're going. They've called it UK, I think, but I think we've got to kind of term that as British Isles Rumfest. So scratch distillers in the British Isles. That's on the Friday. There's no firm plans for that yet, but it is happening from what I know. So, and Rumfest, this is the big one. Although this is the one that's been going for. This is Ian Burrell's. This is the one that's been going for 17 years now. I think this is year 17. It's either been going for 16 and this is year 17, or it's been going for 17 and this is year 18. I think it's the former. 16 years, year 17. I've been virtually, I think there was one, maybe 2 that I missed. I'm thinking that over COVID sort of times, but there was one earlier on, like 2012, 13 that I missed, something like that. But I love them. And there's a question, and this is the thing, right? And what I was going to say, loads of little sidetracks going on here. First of all, what I was going to say, the Rum Show now, the Whiskey Exchange Rum Show is actually, world class. It is superb, and you get all the big guns flying in from all over the world. US and Europe, and there was a couple flew in from Australia that I knew of, and that was just on the Friday. I wasn't there on the Saturday. But it does attract a global audience. But the Rum Fest is the big one for attracting the global audience, mainly because it's well established. But I think the Rum Show will be giving it run for its money. I like that. But then they're 6 months apart, nearly, or at least 4 months apart. So they're not really competing with one another. Maybe for all those guys that fly in from the US and Canada and around the world, maybe if you can only afford to do one and get time off for one, maybe it's competing that way. But the point being, I've had lots of questions now. A, Steve, am I going? But B, why? Why should you attend? Why should you go to a Rum Fest? Now, I want to give you a couple of views on this, because I'm just going to refer to them now as the 2% club. For the 2% club, it's the rum geeks, the rum connoisseurs, the rum geeks, the 2%. Basically, posh rums are 2% of the market, give or take. I'm going to affectionately refer to them. Maybe we might get generous and refer to them as 5%. Let's be generous. Let's refer to them as the 5% club. The 5% club will be all over shows like this, because there will be expensive rums, there'll be rums under the table, there'll be new releases, it'll be all those rums that they might not have the opportunity to buy, because they will be hundreds of pounds, hundreds and hundreds. Some might even be up at the thousands. Let's have a little sip of Kits. Oh, it's delicious stuff, that. But generally for the 5% club, this is the realms that they love. It's their chance to kind of meet the distributors, meet the distillers, and just kind of be involved in the rum community. Now, if you're not in that 5% club, and I'm not, I'm firmly not in that 5% club. I don't want to be in that 5% club. That's not my fun point. It's not my target audience. I'm in the 95% demographic, the 95% that buy spiced rums and like spiced rums, the 95% that like all of these rums behind me under 50 quid, the 95 that will quite happily try a British scratch rum, all and kind of love it, quite happily pay 30, 45 pounds on that. That's the market I'm in. Why should we attend a rum festival? And it's actually pretty much for the same reasons, although differently. When I go to these shows, I very rarely ever try anything that I'm not going to buy. There might be the odd occasion where I get to sample, like for instance, last year's Rum Fest. It was the Mount Gay's Andean Oak, I think it was the Andean Oak. I forget which one it was now. Maybe the Madeira cask. I forget which one it was now. But 160, 200 pounds, whatever it was, a bottle. There's no way in the world I was ever going to buy it. There are certain rums I've got beside here that I will spend 100 because I kind of like the vibe. Like for instance, I've just got the new Black Tot, the 2023 Black Tot. That's sitting beside me now. And that's sitting alongside the 22, the 21 and the 20. There's a couple of others there, but that's generally it. I'm not gonna, and they are Black Tots that I kind of love because they're my blended rums. I'm never gonna go down the route of like Appleton, the 17-year-old. That came out, not even on my radar. I know I've got, for me personally, better rums that won't go into Mai Tai. I'm not going to waste how much that was a bottle of that in a Mai Tai. Yes, it would be great to try one in your lifetime, but I'm not going to buy a bottle of that for the Mai Tai rum. And let's face it, it's probably not even close to being, that original kind of Mai Tai blend, if you like. So, I'm not there. But the whole reason I go to these rum fests is because actually they do have the bulk of those rums, I would say, on offer for you to taste are for the 95%. I don't think there's spiced rums. Don't hold me to that. I don't think there's spiced rums there. Maybe proper spiced rums. Like if Kit was there, he might be able to have his proper spiced rum. I think there are things like that. I kind of forgot the layout of that. I'm trying to think of a spiced rum there that was last year, but I can't. I generally can't. But it is those like accessible rums. It's like the 20, the 30, the 40 pounds, which is what? Let's just go up to my kind of thing, 50 pounds, $60. But there's quite a lot under that, 40 pounds, maybe 50, up to $50, those sort of rums. The rums that you would kind of use for mixing rums, the kind of rums that I quite happily sip neat, but the kind of rums, cocktails and stuff. And that is why I like to go to these things, because actually for me, what I've done in the last few years is actually go from stand to stand. For instance, this is where I found, comparing stand to stand, this is where I found the Skipper last year. And I tried that alongside, I forget what it was now, it was another dark rum. And I just completely walked past this a few times, because it wasn't over, you know, when you look at the label, you think, yeah, okay. But it gave me an opportunity just to try a little dram side by side against another kind of diet. It wasn't OVD. I can't think of what it was now, but just to try it side by side. And I would never have the opportunity to do that because, let's face it, bars don't carry that. You know, you can't really go into a bar and kind of, oh, I'll have a shot of that and a shot of that to compare side by side. Black Parrot, you know, as amongst some rum bars in London, you know, don't have that from my knowledge, because they kind of go up a little level. So for me, when I'm doing my research for cocktail rums, for mixing rums, rums that I love to sip neat, these rum fests are properly on my kind of radar. Now, this isn't a sponsored post, you know, I'm not here to try and get you to buy tickets for Rum Fest. I haven't got a discount code or anything like that, you know. I'm just, you know, I'm getting the questions. I will be there. I will be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, trade day on Monday, and then I'll come home Monday. So I'll be there all weekend. Plenty of networking opportunities. You know, it's time to, you know, and I've got different sections. I've got different friends. I've got friends in that 5% club that I kind of have banter with. We like, and I learn from them. I quite happily admit I will learn from the 5% club. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that. They can teach me a lot of stuff as well. But I'm also, know, whether they like to admit it or not, a few of them admit it to me. You know, I know that I can actually educate them as well, because there are some in that 5% club that have just totally dismissed spiced rums, for example. You know, why would I have that? You know, it's just sweetened up. But then when you kind of educate them that actually not all spiced rums are sweet, some spiced rums are doing it properly, you know, flavoured properly, unsweetened, or in some cases a little bit of dosage just to round the flavours up. It kind of opens their eyes up a bit. Now, I'm not going to profess that I'm going to convert all the 5%, but there's a certain point. So I have those friends as well. I have those friends in the 95% club. I have all the brands. The vast majority of the brands that are there actually produce rum for people like me. There isn't a hell of a lot of brands that produce rum for the 5% club. So actually, in that kind of world, the vast majority of rums that are there are for us ordinary kind of rum lovers that will drink rum at 40, 50 pound a bottle. So, you know, I firmly believe if you've got an interest in rum, then I firmly believe, like, attending a rum fest, one of the big, I'm going to say the big four in the British Isles. Nearly said the UK then, but in the British Isles. And I'm going to count Scotland in there as well. It's like Manchester Rum Fest, the Whiskey Exchange Rum Show, Scottish Rum Fest, and Rum Fest, the London Rum Fest. Now, all the others, while there's some great ones out there, will be mixed in with gin. There'll be kind of lower end brands, you know, like the brands that don't distill, the cheaper brands and all that sort of stuff. So they are the big four that I would say attend in the UK. Now, there's one final kind of thing that I kind of want to get through to you here. The vast majority of cases, you are going to be drinking neat rum. It's the whole point. They're not there. Most of the brands are not there with bottles of ginger ale, with Coke, with cocktails or anything like that. They are there so you can try the rums neat. So if you are not a neat rum drinker, these shows are really not for you. Yes, there's a couple of cocktail bars there, but in the main, most of these rums are there for you to sip neat. Now, you can by all means buy probably like cans or bottles of Coke or something like that, or bottles of ginger ale. I don't think you're allowed to take them in with you, but you can sort of buy little bits there if you want to try them with rum and Coke. But these events are designed to sip rum neat. And that brings me on to another thing, you know, firstly, if you're not used to sipping rum neat, then, you know, if you don't drink rum neat, it's really, really not for you. Unless you just want to hang out at the couple of cocktail bars there for like the day, you know, but then I would argue that that's actually not a great value for money kind of ticket option for you. But hey, you do you. The other point I want to make out is flipping pace yourself. The amount of times that especially now, people like follow me on YouTube and message me and say, oh, we'll meet you there, we'll meet you. Never had any experience of these sort of things before in their life. They'll go hard and fast in the first hour because they're not used to drinking neat spirits, and they'll be done. I'm not saying totally rat-arsed, but they will be done. Their palates will be shot. You know, they won't have a clue what's going on. They will be pretty tipsy, but not absolutely out of it. And it's just, again, it's another waste because these are expensive tickets. You're talking 50 quid a day. You know, these are expensive tickets, so you have to pace yourself. You have to kind of go with an agenda. Work out, like, do your research, look at the exhibitors, look at what rums you want to try. You are thinking about buying, but you want to taste them first. That's what I do. You know, I will have like a couple of laps when I get there. I don't really do the research before I go in, but I'll have a couple of laps when I'm there. I'll kind of suss out the brands that are there, and then I'll think, right, I know this brand does that rum, this brand does that rum, or this range, and they've got 4 under 50 quid. I want to try them and them. I will always go with an agenda. So I kind of know, and I might not actually try that much, because I don't also want to get to a point where I've tried 50, 60 different rums, bear in mind they're only little tots like that, but 50 or 60 rums, and you completely forgot what they taste like. So I like to use it as a proper research and proper education. And talking of education, there is one final bit here as well. So they do normally charge extra. There are free seminars as well, but some of the seminars are totally worth it. A couple I went to last year, the one that really kind of speaks out to me, mainly because it's what I'm interested in, was Beach Bum Berry. Jeff was there talking about tiki cocktails, you know, giving us examples of tiki cocktails as well, his interest, how he got into it, how to balance it, and it was a phenomenal seminar. I don't remember it word for word, but I pretty much took on everything he said in there, which just shows that I was totally interested. You know, there was another seminar in there about blending and stuff, and it was just kind of, I'm interested, but I wouldn't pay money to go and see that again, if you like. I won't say who that was, but it just wasn't. I was interested enough to kind of sign up for it, but actually what was delivered wasn't for me. But there are so many phenomenal seminars there. But the point is, when you go to these seminars as well, you do get to try quite a few rums that maybe not on display on the actual show. So that's kind of my viewpoint. I would love my whole community, especially in the UK and the British Isles, and a few of you that are easily accessible to kind of London to fly in, I would love to come and share a dram with you over that weekend. Friday, we'll be out. This is the whole point, stay in London, because we'll be out, we'll be at various bars, whether it's Black Parrot, whether it's Lackey Cane, whether it's Trailer, you know, whether it's, what else am I missing? There'll be a few, I can't think of what it's. Beachcomber, there we go. You know, there's various kind of bars that we will be at, and they're all kind of cocktail bars apart. Well, Black Parrot's a cocktail bar as well, but they, you know, that's the rum library where you can go in and quite happily sip rum neat. But I would love to meet you all there. I wish I had a discount code for you. I might tap Ian up for it next year, but you know I have a global audience in here, so it wouldn't actually serve me that well. You know, I'm talking to a lot of US people now. I'm talking to a lot of Europeans, a lot of Scandinavia, a lot of Germany, a lot of Poland now in here. Australia is picking up. The UK audience is like really kind of, as the channel grows, you know, the UK audience is kind of, you know, it's not growing with it. It's kind of staying, whereas the US side is growing, and all around Canadian side is growing. But if you are easily accessible to London, mid-October, whenever it is, 15th, 16th, do come to London Rum Fest, share a dram, and who knows, we might be able to sample Kit's new rum, whatever he's got. He must have something new coming out. This is Ninefolds, and this is delicious. Cheers. Anyone that's followed me on my other YouTube channels or on social, it's seen me posted about cocktails, you will know that I've got a sort of fetish with mango and chili. I think that combination just works exceedingly well, whether it's tequila or actually in some rums. Heck, I've even got modern spicy mango syrup here. But when Sylvester and Dwight from Island Slice sent me their Scotch bonnet rum through, and this probably goes back about a month or so ago now, we were chatting about this, there was only one thing that I was going to do with this, and that even came out in that sort of live interview that we did. So today I've got a Scotch bonnet, sort of a mango and chili highball. We've got a Scotch bonnet rum from Island Slice. We've got Monnin's mango syrup, and I think this is going to be perfect in here. We've got Stratford Soda's citrus soda. Now, if you want to up the measurements, you do you, but I'm going for 45 ml of this Scotch bonnet infused rum. Then we're going to do 15 ml, half an ounce of Monnin's mango syrup, or you can use mango puree. Heck, you could even use mango juice if you wanted to. Then I'm just going to use about half a bottle, maybe 2/3 of the bottle of Stratford Soda Citrus. I call it the long daiquiri. Low in carbonation, low in fizz, but like oomph in flavour, made with real life fruit juices and stuff like that. Absolutely delicious. Again, look, let's be honest. This is not a paid promotion at all in the slightest. Let me, Fever Tree Sicilian lemonade will work, and the lemon tonic that I really like as well. You could use those sort of things. San Pellegrino limonata. There's other things, but I love this because it doesn't make me burp. Essentially, it's less gassy. It just doesn't make me work. So half, 2/3 of the bottle, long bar spoon. Give it a stir because your mango syrup is quite heavy and sitting on the bottom. Top your glass up with even more ice, because the more ice you have in your glass, the colder your drink stays for longer, therefore the less dilution you get. Now I'll make that look even more sexier for the thumbnail, for the photo shoot, but I've just got some sprig and mint now. I'm thinking a bit of chili, a bit of mango maybe. We shall see for the photo shoot. What's it taste like? I tell you one thing for sure. Sylvester ain't shy of putting a few chilies in that. That is absolutely delicious. Mango and chili is the flavour bomb. I love it. Cheers. So here we go. Cocktail debunking time. This week on Tuesday, the corn and oil dropped. And as I said, I'm going to debunk this cocktail and try it in a different, variations. Now, in truth, I don't kind of know how to do this properly, because I could end up doing over 100 combinations here. And that really ain't going to happen. no matter how much you pay me, that really ain't going to happen. So I've essentially got 4 Barbados rums here. I'm not convinced. I want to give the XO a fair shake. I do. I'm going to try standard sort of corn and oil with the XO. Give it a fair shake. I'm not a huge fan of it neat, but it might work. I don't know. We shall see. Now the Falernums. I said I had 3 different Falernums here, and I have. Very different. So we've got John D. Taylor's, kind of the OG. It's like a lovely lime, citrusy, subtle hint of almond, subtle hint of ginger going on there. It's just delicious. We've got the Bitter Truth Golden Falernum, which is way more gingery up front. You still get this sort of lime notes to it, but you kind of get that, it's just ginger. You get a healthy body of ginger, so it's a different Falernum. And then you've got Monin's Falernum. So 18% ABV, so 36 proof, 11% 22 proof. This is obviously non-alcoholic. I actually do kind of like that, because as I've spoken about a few times, when I actually come to making cocktails, I do like my flavour to come from syrups, not necessarily liqueurs. Now, the John D. Taylor's isn't actually strong enough for me to call it a liqueur. It does effectively play in the same field as a syrup. However, when I've played about with the Golden Falernum, it is a little bit stronger, 18%, and it does sort of half need balancing out a little bit more in that respect. It needs a little bit of extra work. So sometimes I might actually kind of rock out a little bit of sugar syrup with that, whereas I definitely wouldn't need to with that. So hopefully you kind of understand where we are there. Now, when we come to the bitters, because I do prefer it with bitters. I know, I'm assuming that's Richard Seal that's put that recipe on the back there. I don't know whether that may be the original recipe. Bitters might be frowned on. Bearing in mind, this is Barbados, and the Angostura bitters come from Trinidad, although they kind of were touted around the Caribbean very, very like early doors, like 1800s, So they would have been able to get it in Barbados pretty easily. The bitters I've kind of got here, let's bring those and let's put those back in camera. Well, if you can see, I could have a field day. I've got a lot of bitters down there. I could have an absolute field day with that. But what we've got Angostura. I wouldn't pick Peychaud's in a million years. It was only because, I don't know who it was actually, but I think it was Will actually on the Rumcast. I got them mixed up, sorry lads. But one of them used Peychaud's in there and actually really quite liked it. So I'm actually going to give that a fair shake as well, Peychaud's. These are, and again, it was the other one, so it wasn't, whoever had the Peychaud's didn't have these. These are my go-tos, the Elamaculi Tiki bitters, that cinnamon, that allspice. Long-term followers will know that I go through loads of that. I love it, I adore it. It just gives you that tiki vibe to cocktails. It's absolutely superb. But then what I've actually got is Ms. Better's Bitters, aromatic bitters. Now the point I want to make here, that even those to a certain extent, but those 3 are all aromatic bitters. And if you listened to the Rumcast, you will have heard them say that that is completely different to that. So even though they're classed as aromatic bitters, they are not the same vibe at all. And actually, Miss Betty's bitters, for me, tailors more towards the Ella Makudi Tiki bitters than it does sort of anything else. It is sort of an Angostura kind of bitters kind of vibe, but actually it's got those sort of notes in there. So how I'm going to do this, I've got no ideas. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. I'll tell you what I am going to do first. I am going to do like the kind of the XO, but obviously we're going to do slightly smaller ones. So I've got my UK jigger out here. So what I'm actually going to do is, I think I'm going to go 10 mil. 10 mil, is that going to balance out? No, hang on, let me go. Yeah, I know how to do it. So, right, I'm going to go 15 mil of rum. I'm still going to have loads left over here because I'm not going to drink that. 15 mil of rum. And then I'm just going to go sort of 2.5, 3 mil of the Falernum. There we go. In there. Just to kind of give that sort of balance, that ratio. So I kind of, as I say, I do want to give it the fair shake. Perhaps this might be the way I consume that bottle because it's just been sitting there for a long, long time. No, no, I just don't like the sherry. The sherry just comes through. And I know it's got a lot of fans, but I just don't like that heavy influence of sherry. So no. Perhaps it's just me. You know, there's a couple of things that I don't like and that I pick up. One's sherry influence, the other's like peaty, smoky influence. I'm actually not too bad with smoke. It's not my favourite, but I'm not too bad. But peated whiskies like Lagavulin, like you know, even that aroma. I'm not a huge whiskey fan, but that aroma, I just can't handle. And they're my two things. And when I get them, I really do pick them out, and I'm like, no, I don't do that. So it's not, you know, it's not. This is what I try and say. It's not that that's a bad rum. I actually wouldn't be able to tell the quality of that because I just don't like it like that much. So normally I can appreciate the quality of rums, but that's just for me. It's just way too sherry forward for me, and I couldn't tell you whether that was a decent sherry rum or not. I just go by other people's opinions. So many people rate it. I don't know whether they're Foursquare fanboys and girls. I generally don't, but so many people give that love. I just cannot stand it. I just can't. And I'm sorry, that's not a Debbie Downer on it. I just, because of my sherry adversity, I just can't stand it. So that's going, that's being consigned. It's just, you know, even on top of that, I get that for learning, but it's like I'm drinking sherry. It's not hiding that sherry for me. So what I actually want to do is I actually want to try the Dawley's 12 on here. I'm not saying, because I think people would do a Dawley's 12 as a corn and oil. I was going to say tea punch. I think people would do it. I don't think people would do the 14. I think that's a little bit too expensive, but I think the Dawley's 12 is potential. I'm going to try and cut this down a little bit. So I've got 12.5 mil there. We don't want to waste rum, do we? We don't want to waste. So that means 12.5. Yeah, it's not quite 5. It's there. Oh, it's about 3-ish. Again, 3-ish mil. Dawley's 12. Now I don't mind the Dawley's 12. It's a heavy going rum for me. It's like a one once every few weeks or so kind of rum. It's not a rum that I would think, oh, I'm going to have a glass of that every night. It's nice to have it. I'm not convinced I would restock it. So, that's, again, it's just too heavy. It's not, the Mount Gay is just lovely and easygoing, and it just makes me want to drink more of it. You know, is that in a, all right, that's got Angostura bitters in it now, but as a corn and oil, I just really, that's just got too much body in it for me. But I think a lot of you a lot of you higher aged fans would love that. I just think it's a little bit too much for me, that's all. Have I got enough? Right, I'm going to regret doing this. But I want to. I should have enough just to do this little trial, because I really want to try that. I think that potentially could be right on my palate. Oh, I need to get a new bowl of this. Where are we? Oh, yeah, we should be right. I'm going to do, right, I've got 15 mil. Do you know what? I might get another shot or a bit out of that. Right. I've got, for any of the rums that I've got behind here, this is the one I'm kind of thinking would kind of work. There we go. Boom. Or would be, not work. I mean, it'll work for anyone, but the one my favourite. So there we go. That's that. Right. Oh, God damn, that's delicious. Oh, my God, that was just a totally and utterly different vibe to that 12. That is sensational. That's lovely. I do not want to add bitters to that. I don't want to add bitters to that because I don't want to drink it. But that was weird. That Mount Gay, actually, bitters enhanced that. I'm loath to add bitters to that. I really am. I just want to have that as it is. Oh, that is good. That is really good. That's like head and shoulders so far. And I mean that in like genuinely head and shoulders. That I already want to finish that and have another one. So, right. I'm going to try the Plantation XO. I've got plenty of glass here. Plantation XO, remember, is a little bit sweeter. It is. Pop. So let's just put a little bit. I don't think many of you are going to be paying that much money for that and doing this as a. Let's do it the same. Let's give it a fair shake. Let's do it the same. So 15 ml. Yeah, it's like 50 quid rum. Are you going to add Falernum to it? You're not adding too much Falernum. There we go. Boom. You know, there's literally like 2 or 3 mil there to 15 mil. So, but I predict that this will actually be, because it is slightly sweetened and it has more of a broader mass market appeal, I actually suspect that this one would be the one that most people probably go for, like the higher demographic of people would go for. Oh, it's actually a little bit, oh. Now obviously I did the same amount of Falernum. I've overshot the Falernum massively on that. That could have been brought right back with the Falernum. Like literally, so I had a 15 ml of rum, literally about 3.5 to 4 ml of Falernum. That could have been half. So to relate that up, you know, if you're doing a 60 ml and 15 ml, I think you would need literally 10 to 7.5 to 10 ml of Falernum with that. That's just too sweet now. That's, oh yeah, I can tell. That's the perfect balance for me, the RL Seal 10. Now, what I haven't got enough. I would love just to go. My whole thought was I'm just going to pick one rum and just go down the debunking route. I would love to go down that route. I just haven't got enough of that to go. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go back to Mount Gay, because Mount Gay is my favourite after the RL Seal so far. So I'm going to go back to the Mount Gay and just kind of go down this route. Okay. So first off, we're going to do, actually, let's pour them all at the same time, you know. And I'm going to do the 3 different Falernums in here. So Mount Gay. So actually, I only need to do 2, don't I? What am I talking about? Boom, and there, boom. Right. So that's the Mount Gay in there, the black barrel. Now this, as I've spoken about, this is such a different kind of, I might be easier off the bar spoon actually for this, because I really don't want that much. There we go. Oh, see, even actually, I was probably easier in the jigger. There we go. So about half a bar spoon in there of that one. And the Monin Falernum. ODK do one as well. And ODK, so these guys, if you're in the UK, ODK, I actually really do rate it. I haven't got it here. But again, it kind of, it's flavour forward without the sweetness. ODK have a really weird kind of thing going on. Love the flavours. Absolutely love the flavours. But they're not sugar syrups in a traditional sense. I think they do need sweetening up a little bit. So they do kind of, it does kind of need balancing. Whereas like Monin as a sugar syrup brand, just kind of nails it on there. So I have to put them in a different order. So yeah, so they're in that order there. So that's the Monin. That's that. Really, do you know what? That's really got me. The XO, how much sherry still comes through on that. I can even smell it. Yeah, crazy. Right. So let's right. So this one, the Golden Falernum, Bitter Truth. Instantly hasn't got the sweetness. It's got the ginger. It's got the sort of little citrus. It just lacks sweetness because it is a stronger Falernum. I don't think you could use that as a corn and oil without actually adding sugar to it. I think it does need that sweetness. The Monin one. It's nice. It's better than that. It's just not the, hang on. Just so we're fair, just so we're absolutely fair. Let's just do it. There we go. Right, and the John D. Taylor's. I call it I'm just going to call it JDT. I like abbreviating stuff. Right, there we go. We're about the same. So it's definitely the same. All three of the Falernum's gone into the same amount of Mount Gay. No, hands down. Wow, that is so interesting. I wasn't expecting that because I really do like that, and that works. In all honesty, I don't think I've used that in a corn and oil. I can't remember using that in corn and oil, but I've used that in cocktails, and that works amazingly well in cocktails. But actually, just in the standalone corn and oil, there is actually no comparison at all. The John D. Taylor's with the Mount Gay is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That's really interesting. This has actually turned out a lot easier than what I was expecting. I was expecting to do, this rum with that and this rum with that and, you know, and everything. Yeah, most of you at home are not going to be faffed around, well, you know, this is sweeter, so I need to add less Falernum. You just kind of go, well, I want a rum, and I'm going to add the amount of Falernum it tells me to add on the bottom, on the bottle. So I'm just going to go down that route. So in that case, I have to go that. Now, what I'm going to do, right, put my little ditty ice cubes. Oh, we're going for 3 ice cubes this time. Oh, interesting. 4. There we go. 1, 2, right. I'm still going to use that Mount Gay. As much as I'd love to use the RLC, I'm still going to use the Mount Gay. But look, you could probably use the Plantation XO. You could, but I just think you need to dial it back. So if you're actually going for what it says in Martin Cate's Smuggler's Cove and in, you know, and on the back of the bottle of the Falernum, you know, the majority of people aren't going to think, well, it's as sweeter, so I need to add less. The RO nails it, 10, but so does that, to be fair. That, I prefer that, but you know, this is pretty decent as well. So let's go here. So this is the bitters test. I need to go back down a Barbados rabbit hole as well. I want to get another bottle of RO Seal. I want to get another bottle of Mount Gay. I think there's another one next level up that's not too expensive. some reason, my Barbados knowledge is minimal. I don't really do Barbados rum because I like the other. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I know what I was going to do. Sorry, Barbados. I've got to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. Right, let's get rid of that one. Right, I'm just 1, 2, 3. You kind of have to, don't you? You kind of have to. I was going to be cheeky, wasn't I? So let's just go. The two in my head, and I could do this with so many other things, but I'm going to go Chairman's Reserve Legacy. Sorry, Barbados. I'm going to go Chairman's Reserve Legacy, and I'm going to go Dawley's 8. Dawley's 8? Appleton 8. There we go. You could go all day. You could go flipping like Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. You could. The only other one I would potentially put in this is El Dorado 12. Potentially. Why flipping not? Let's get rid of all that ice. Let's just do it. Well, this experiment got a little bit different, didn't it? So El Dorado 12-year-old. These are the 3 rums that I would potentially kind of there. So right, El Dorado 12. So let's kind of split. So that's them. Right. So it's these 3, isn't it? Right. Now I don't think I did. Did I? I'm pretty sure I didn't put Falernum in those. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I'm going to back myself that I didn't. You lot are laughing at me now. Thinking, yeah, you did. The one's going to be way sweeter than the other and throw the results off. But I'm really sorry. But I'm more interested at this precise moment in... Right, let's just do the Falernums here again. Did I? I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure I didn't do the Falernum. This is where I need an audience now, isn't it? No, that must be right. That must be right. It must be right. Oh my God, now I'm thinking I put 2 lots of Falernum in there. I'm sorry. If I've messed this up, I'm really, really sorry. Right. So let's just go, first off, Chairman's Reserve Legacy. See, I remember that's Chairman's Reserve Legacy. Oh my God, that's... Wait. No. That's the Appleton 8-year-old. Sorry for the radio silence then for a second. Oh, that's good. Oh my God, that's... Right, the Appleton 8 can go. I'm not sure that was a fair comparison. Perhaps I should have done the Appleton 12. But that Chairman's Reserve, those two... Right, okay. Let's just kind of explain this for a second of where my head is for here. Flavour and rum-wise, those 2 are head and shoulders above the rest of the Barbados rums. But this is a Barbados cocktail, so therefore you should use Barbados rum by de facto. Now, the RLC was flipping good, really, really good. Better than the Mount Gay XO, but that is just different level. The Chairman's Reserve Legacy and the you know, even comparing it to the Mount Gay, as it straight up, that's just head and shoulders. And the El Dorado 12, oh, I would pay serious money for those 2. Wow. Okay. I've kind of dented that a little bit, haven't I? That's a bit of a shame. Let's just sod it. Right, we've done the Angostura bitters, so I don't need to do Angostura bitters. Actually, that helps me. So I don't need to do Angostura bitters because that's there. So let's just go Elimakuli Tiki bitters. Oops, come here. There we go. Right, Elimakuli Tiki bitters. That is about 1 dash, which should be perfect for that size. We're going for Musbettas bitters, aromatic bitters, which nearly about see the aroma. About there. And we're going for the Peychaud's randomly. So bear in mind, I've still got my benchmark that I know what tastes like of Angostura. Right, stir in. Where's spoon? So you can see the colour difference. Look at the colour difference of these. This is the most long-winded cocktail dissection that you'll probably ever see on this Sunday night. But let's go. So let's, that should be right. Delicious, watered down very slightly. Actually, it makes the Angostura bitters a little bit more acceptable in there. If you remember back, I put too much Angostura bitters in there, essentially. One dash, it needed more, but I'd had a few gulps, so therefore took the volume of the whole cocktail down. So by the time I added the second dash, it was a bit too overpowering for me. But I think 2 dashes would have been perfect at the original specs, so 60ml and then 15ml of your Falernum. So what we've got is the equivalent of that 1 dash essentially going on there. So first up, we've got the El Makuli Tiki bitters. Love that. Oh my God, love that. Right. The Miss Betty's bitters, aromatic. Ooh. Ooh, that gives it more. Ooh. I'm preferring that. Right. Peychaud bitters that I would never in a million years have put in there, but this is just thanks to the Rumcast podcast. No, I can see why people would like it. It's a bit too soft. It hasn't got the oomph behind it. Miss Betty's bitters for me. Interesting. So, okay. Now, do we get to the Holy Grail with Miss Betty's bitters with the Chairman's and the El Dorado? I just want to clarify, I do not need bitters in those. I am paying money for the Chairman's Reserve Legacy and the El Dorado 12-year-old. And I would probably order it over the RL Seal 10, although that was really good. It was more of it had more oomph than what the Mount Gay does, but it has less character than what the Chairman's and the El Dorado has, if that's the best way to explain it, okay? Yeah, no, there's no point in me doing it. I've already tasted it. It's not going to alter my opinions. I just prefer these. Right, so now Miss Betty's bitters, and I'm going to do slightly less because I've had quite a few gulps of this. That'll be about there, perfect. And there, perfect. Right, so the grand finale. Is there a winner? Is there a winning combination of the corn and oil? This is we've kind of gone through the heats and the quarterfinals, the semi or the knockout stages, then the semi-finals, the final now. Wow, there's a lot of silence going on in this video, and I do apologise. So with the aromatic bitters, which were my favourites out of the others that I tried, the Mount Gay smashes it. But it doesn't come close to those without bitters. I've ruined those drinks with bitters. I wouldn't have these now. This is so fascinating. My little head kind of explodes with all these different combinations and all that. And just when you think, I'll have this and that tastes great and all. When you taste this all side by side, this is why I love rum. I flipping love rum because it is such a diverse category and no two rums are created equal. My pick for the Corn and Isle, I'm going for a Barbados cocktail. Sorry, Barbados. I'm genuinely going, without bitters, I'm going Chairman's Reserve Legacy first. I'm going Eldorado second. If you want to go authentic Barbados, that smashed it out of above everything. And as much as I'm a plantation fanboy, as much as I love the plantation 5-year-old that I haven't actually got any more of at this precise moment, that smashes it all day long over those. It does. I would have that, but it's still not as good as those. Now, I've made this highball various different ways, and I'll be open and honest, this wasn't actually the way I intended to make it to do this video. But when I couldn't get the ingredient I actually wanted in time, and I wanted to rock this video out now because I'm kind of impatient, I actually started playing about with other things, and you know what? I actually prefer this, but it is slightly more complex. We have got 5 ingredients this time, but I promise you it's worth it. So let me just talk about the ingredient I haven't got that I was going to use. I was actually going to use Dalston's cherry soda, which is quite easy to get in the UK these days. The other one was the Stratford Soda Hedgerow, which again I think will be another great substitute. But I kind of wanted to specifically go for the cherry and hibiscus vibe. So that was kind of that. The Dalston cherry soda is, it kind of does have a decent flavour to it, but it comes to life when you add a little bit of sweetness. So that is what we are mimicking there with those 2 ingredients. We've got soda water, left over from the Craft Rum Club, and we've got some cherry syrup from Monning. We've got that. Now, I do think, having played with this, I wouldn't have used it with the Dalstons. I do need a couple of wedges of lime juice in there just to balance it out. But the hibiscus works. Cherry and hibiscus just is an amazing combination. I absolutely adore that. But the rum, this rum just works so well for me. So first up is that rum, Ron Cube, Cuban rum, Añejo Suave, 45ml. Again, if you want to up the ratios, you do a 60ml or even a 50ml, but I'm going 45ml, 1.5 ounces. And then I've got my hibiscus syrup, 15ml, half an ounce of that. And then swapping jiggers, because I just want about 7.5 to 10ml of the cherry. I don't want to over cherry, but 7.5ml of cherry syrup in there. Remember, I'm just trying to mimic that Dalston's cherry soda, which isn't that bold in cherry flavour, but it's just got a nice subtlety to it. Then I'm just going to squeeze in a couple of wedges of fresh lime. And then I just want about 100ml of soda water, seltzer water for you guys in the UK, but about 100ml, not too much. Long bar spoon, give it a stir. All your syrups be heavy and stuck at the bottom. Top up with more ice. You know the reason why by now. And look, these are simple highballs. They're not designed to be garnished, you know, but I kind of have to for thumbnails. So I'm going to make a more elaborate sort of thumbnail for a photo shoot in a second. But there we go. So, sort of sherry, lightly aged Cuban rum, cherry, hibiscus. Cheers. That is fantastic. I love the rum in that. But I love the hibiscus and just that little touch of cherry. Even 7.5ml of that really punches through. But not overly sweet. The citrus brings it back. That's just delicious. Now, daiquiri of the week time, and Tim, Tim, you know who you are. So Tim is one of my long-term subscribers. I don't actually 100% know where you are, but all I know is the southern area of Germany, sort of like the Black Forest. And we chat a lot in WhatsApp and stuff like that, and have a bit of banter. I affectionately called him like a rum geek early on. But he's very much on my wavelength. He's all about like trying to educate and help his friends get into rum. So while, you know, he won't mind me saying this, he is a big Caroni fan, Coroni. How I got told recently it should be Caroni, but I call it Coroni. That's his palate. But he is very much on my wavelength, on my kind of how the rums that would attract like the new breeds. So we kind of gel, and I'll definitely going to go over and visit at some point. Anyway, all that aside, he's kind of stitched me up a little bit this week, and I'm not looking forward to this. I've never tried it, but he wants me to do a Smith and Cross daiquiri. Now, for those of you just tuning in for the first time, my basic rule of thumb for a daiquiri is unaged, column still, to give me that archetypal, light, clean, crisp, bright sort of daiquiri. There's a time and a place for Jamaican funk. For me, it's not in a daiquiri, but I'm going to go for it. I said, look, if you come to me, if you hit me up with daiquiris in the DMs, I will kind of try them on. This is what this segment's all about. So, Smith & Cross, Tim. Smith & Cross. Right. I've got my lime juice pre-poured in there because it's in the fridge. So lime juice in there. I'm going to do... we did go backwards and forwards and we settled on Demerara sugar on there. Or this is actually... Sorry, Monin. This is homemade Demerara sugar, not actually brown sugar from Monin. I ran out of bottles and I ran out of brown, so I kind of made it myself. So this is actually homemade Demerara sugar in there. There we go. Perfect. Right. Going to my 5-2. I'm going to do 5-2-2 for this. I did okay with the boss. Oh, Smith & Cross. It's going to be the worst freaking daiquiri of all time, isn't it? Right, 50 ml. 50 ml. Why would you do this to me? So the whole point being, if you've got a daiquiri that you want me to try, whether it's spiced rum, whether it's fruit rum, whether it's stupid flipping high ester Jamaican rum, I'm game. I'm really game. I want to try new daiquiris. That's what I want. So we've got big chunky ice for you. Look at this. Look at this. Right. I'm just hoping, because I've hit record before I've even. Yeah, that's all right. I was just making sure that my strainers and all that were behind me. Right. So power shake. I can smell it already. Let's do a proper professional one. Do you know what, right? Here's just one side note. I'm putting off the inevitable, but side note, if you want to shake cocktails right, we never got taught this when we were youngsters because it wasn't a thing back then. That, I can even feel it now. That, shaking up there, does give you sort of, in later life, if you're a bartender starting out, don't shake like that because your rotator cuffs up there really hurt. If you can, sort of shake like that from the heart. Mind you, this all came out in like the mid-2000s, and I don't think they've gone long enough now for bartenders to actually get sort of injuries from that like 15 years down the line. But I'm just telling you, that flipping hurts up there these days. That's why I don't do events where I make cocktails. Anyway. Oh, look at that. If your shaker ain't frosty like that, you've not shaken it hard enough. Fact. Right. I can smell it. But part of me is I'm intrigued. I've just never really done like aged. Well, this is lightly aged as well. So this isn't even really heavily aged, but it's not the rum that I would kind of go for in a daiquiri. I was kind of thinking I should try this with just normal white cane sugar, but he was adamant that I should try this with like a brown Demerara sugar. So I went with it. Jamaican funk, banana. It's not actually that bad. It doesn't put me off that much. Right, I'm gonna have a gulp. I would have a little sip, but I'm gonna man up. I'm gonna have a gulp. It's not that bad. It's not what I want in a daiquiri, but I would give that. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. Would I? Oh, look, if someone bought me that, if that was put down in front of me in a bar, I'd drink it. If I saw it on a menu alongside another daiquiri, I wouldn't order it. It's decent. It's got this pot still rum. No, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to end it on this. Pot still Jamaican rums do not belong in a daiquiri. Facts. Cheers. It's all right though. It's all right. It's not epic, but it's all right. So we come to the final part of this week's rum show, and this is the summing up of last week's rum. So not the rums that dropped this week, the week before. Now this is kind of I'm quite happy with the rest of this show and the different bits. I'm not kind of sure how this bit lies, you know, and this is where I definitely want feedback from you guys. You know, it's like, what else could I do with these rums? Do you even want me to talk about these rums? Did I cover enough of them in the rum reviews videos? I kind of wanted it as a summing up of where I kind of had it in my head for that. But as we go on, it's like, what purpose does this actually bring? So if you've got any ideas, don't forget, you know, this is all, as I said, well, I've had plenty of ideas, had plenty of emails. There seems to be, we've had that sort of element of the rum connoisseurs, the rum people that are further down their journey and they want me to look at other stuff. And I keep trying to point out, A, that's not what my channel is about. B, you're not my audience. And C, you know, that's not what I'm about. It really isn't what I'm about. You know, this is pretty much at the top level I will ever be. I'm not interested in going down 70, 80, 100, you know, 200 pound rums. Really not. My primary focus is kind of rums under 50 quid, tiki cocktails, because I love cocktails. I love highballs. I love mixed long mixed drinks, that sort of stuff. So that's where my focus is. So I don't know, perhaps in that vein, perhaps I should look at more spiced rums in this segment. Perhaps it should be a spiced rum segment. I don't know. I just want feedback, but I don't want it. It's 100%, no matter how many like random emails I get from that, it's not going down the sort of the upper level route, because that's not me. That's not what I'm about. And that's not the audience, the bulk of the audience that I attract. It's the vocal audience, you know, the ones that comment, the ones that are all about that. But, you know, the vast percentage of the viewers are not about the more expensive rums. So with that in mind, let's just crack on with this summing up and we'll see how it goes for future weeks and all this stuff. And these were the rums that I kind of sort of put head to head last week. You know, that went against the Plantation XO, that went against the Havana Cuban Barrel Proof, and that went against the Bacardi, Selection de Maestros, and that went against the Bacardi 8. So my favourite rum here out of these three, by a long shot, was that Havana 11-year-old. That for me is, and I know it's more expensive, and I know that just goes against everything I've just said, but I feel Havana actually sits in that sort of non-connoisseur, non-rum, fanboy, fangirl kind of fan person sort of territory. Havana just makes really good, decent rums, apart from the 7-year-old. I really don't like the 7-year-old for some bizarre reason. And the Especial. Actually, let's say Havana makes some really good rums. I'm really not the hugest fan of the 7 and the Especial. They're all right, but they just, yeah, they don't float my boat. So, but when we go up to the Cuban Barrel Proof, when we go up to this, I've actually had some Maximo as well. Oh, that's pretty damn tasty. And the 15, is it? Maxi. By the way, the Maximo's like 1,000 plus a bottle, whatever it is. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. So, you know, look, this Havana was properly up my street. And, you know, even though they're not in the same ballpark, remotely not even close, as a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old, as two column still rums, you know, as Puerto Rico, you know, Cuban heritage, but Puerto Rico as Cuban, you know, that is just like night and day. You know, if you're saying to me, which one am I having out of these two, it's just not even, you know, it's laughable. It is actually laughable, the gulf in quality between the two. Okay, and I know this is a special release, but I don't think it's actually any more different to what that is. It's just 11-year-old 50% ABV as opposed to a 10-year-old 40% ABV. I think they're both pretty much, as I understand it, you know, standard casks. It's just the ABV. It's all, you know, it's all it is. But the gulf in them is just superb. So yeah, I think I summed that up quite well. You know, that would be, I'm quite happy drinking that, you know, but it ain't going to be a restock for me. If I do go back down a Bacardi route, I would restock the 8-year-old. I think the 8-year-old serves a purpose for me as a business. It doesn't really serve a purpose for me personally. I think that's how I would actually sum that up. I think the 8-year-old works perfectly in YouTube videos, in kind of tastings and getting people on the journey. But for me personally, I probably wouldn't actually have the 8-year-old, if that makes complete sense. Okay, so I'll just put that back up there. We've talked about the Havana. The surprise sort of package for me a little bit is, and all right, this wasn't a surprise because, you know, I'd had this before. I'd spoken about this before. I've tasted this before. But the surprise bit that I'm kind of getting at is that I'm not the hugest Foursquare fan. I kind of sit more in the plantation if we're going Barbados, and actually to a certain extent Mount Gay. I do prefer Mount Gay rums over the Foursquare rums. And it would be actually, this is something I kind of need to do as well. I'll probably actually need to revisit the Black Barrel. That's something else I can do. Revisit the Black Barrel and the next one up, mental block of what that's, and kind of compare it to the Dawley's 12 and the Dawley's 14 in that sort of sense. And kind of go like for like there. But this is fantastic. The one thing I hadn't comprehended about this is that actually where I've seen this, reviewed and read about it, and even in the US when they go, oh yeah, we've got it, it's at the lower ABV, and this is the 46% ABV. So I'm not sure if this is the standard UK release, the 46% RL sealed 10. I hope not. I hope it's the standard release. I hope it's not a special, you know, never to be repeated, because that is flipping gorgeous. 46% ABV, that is a stunning, stunning rum. Absolutely adore that. And that would, for me, be a forever stock, a permanent stock. I just hope it's not a unique. I haven't even looked at that, to be honest, since filming. But I'm really intrigued now, because I've seen certain people talk about the RL sealed 12 versus the Dawley's 12. And I've seen 50-50 split. You know, some people prefer, it's how it's always going to be. Some people prefer the Dawley's 12. Some people prefer the RL sealed 12. But I would love to do that comparison myself, because for a long time I've seen this compared in the UK as essentially the Dawley's 10-year-old. But for me, it's a totally different vibe to the Dawley's 5-year-old. It's obviously completely different to Dawley's XO because of the sherry influence, and I'm not a huge fan of that. For some reason, I know it's got a lot of love, but I just don't do sherry aged rums. I don't, you know, I'm going to say this again because I know I pick up viewers all the time. It's not that I think it's wrong or anything like that. I just prefer the taste of rum. And that's it in a nutshell. There are some casks that do add to that. For instance, because I also love my cognac, I'm a big cognac fan as well. I do appreciate cognac finished cask rum as well. And I know that that's where some of the, you know, the sort of connoisseurs come down, because plantation uses a lot of cognac finishes. But I go back to Don Q. Don Q is, in their cognac cask, is one of the best cognac finishes I've ever tasted. So I like a cognac cask, but what I don't like and what I don't get on with is like sherry finished, definitely sort of wet sherry finished. And I would hazard a guess that the Foursquare, the Dawley's XO, is kind of wet sherry. I've tasted plenty of drier sherry barrels, but the amount of sherry barrels that I've actually seen now, that actually when they come in from Jerez or, you know, Spain or wherever, they're so wet. They've got 2-3 litres of sherry in those barrels, you know, and it's really hard to, unless you get a cooper to take those barrels to bits, it's really hard to get all that liquid out. So anyone that ages their rum in those ex-sherry barrels is going to be adding their rum to a few litres of sherry. It's just how it is. Some have got more sherry in than most. So that's kind of my sherry thing aside. I'm not a huge sherry, not a huge wine. I've got a couple of wine finishes up there, an Amarone one, and I forget what it is now, Shiraz maybe, cask, and they just don't do anything for me. Just give me rum in a plain old barrel, a couple of years, you know, 5 years, and I'm as happy as Larry. Unaged rum, even better. I love the taste of rum. Rum that gets aged and goes off in a different journey. It's still rum, of course it is, and it's still got a lot of fans, like whiskey. You know, whiskey's got love. It's got a lot of love for sherry aged whiskey, for, you know, bourbon aged whiskey, for all that. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just my preference. I like the taste of rum. And when rum has changed its taste and become something else, that's when I cease to, it's still rum, obviously, but it's when I cease to not like it. So there's another sort of segment for you, isn't it? Take it away for this. But this, getting back to this, so the whole point of that little spiel was I don't see this as the Dawley's 10 because it is a very different vibe to the XO. It's a very different vibe to the Dawley's 5, and it's a very different vibe to the Dawley's 12 and the 14, obviously. It's just, for me personally, nothing like any of those. So I would hazard a guess that I would love the RL Seal 12 much more than the Dawley's 12. And I do appreciate it. It's a decent rum. It's just got a bit too much on it for me. So that might be my next mission now, is to see if I can pick up an RL Seal 12. And actually to kind of deep dive into this. Is the 46% the standard one we get in the UK, or is it a 43%? Have I just randomly managed to get an export strength one? I don't know. Quite clearly says export proof on here. Perhaps everywhere outside of Barbados gets, and America, the US gets a 46%, and perhaps the US and Barbados just get a 43%. I don't know. But that is gorgeous. I love that. Probably not as much as that Havana 11-year-old, but it's very, very close. Definitely replenishing that bottle. Yes, it's 50 quid, but I see that at the upper age of the ages I like. I know some people go down a 12 and a 14 and maybe a 15, 16-year-old, but I see that 10 as probably the very peak of the higher aged rums that I like. And that is, for me, stunning. I'm not having a bad word against that. As much as we laugh and giggle about Team Foursquare and Team Plantation, but, even me as a Plantation fanboy, I can tell all day long that is just some seriously good rum in there. Absolutely, seriously phenomenal rum. So, actually, bearing in mind that that's a limited edition and that'll be a permanent stock, my one recommendation for the week, out of all of those the three rums that I reviewed last week, would be this one. I think this is the one, because you should be able to get that 12 months from now. You should be able to get it 2 years from now, 4 years from now. It's been around for a long time. And I think this is a rum that you have to try on your rum journey. So that's it for this week. As I say, if you've got any ideas for this segment, perhaps I nailed it in that segment. I don't know. Whatever you would like me to hear to help you guys on your rum journeys. Not to help the more expensive rums, to take, as I always say, mission statement. I want to take people from those sweeter spiced rums up to the £50, $60. Let's just go back old school, $60, 60 euros. I want to take people on that journey and then let them fly the nest and go off on their merry little ways and try more expensive rums, collector rums, £100 rums. As I say, that's not, once you get to that level, you cease to become my target market, which is brilliant because I do love some of those rums, but I'm more interested in educating there and around the tiki cocktails. So let me know your thoughts and opinions. I will see you next week. Toodaloo.